is no good reason to delay the release of that report. Albertans deserve to see it. They deserve to be able to engage with their government in time for their views to be considered before the budget numbers are locked.
That's Alberta NDP leader Rachel Notley calling on the province to release the Blue Ribbon Panel report. The panel was appointed by the Kenney government in May. Their mandate was to review the province's financial situation and make recommendations to help balance the books. Today was the deadline for the expert panel to be delivered their report, but the public won't know what's in it until the fall. Joining me now is Shannon Phillips. She's opposition finance critic and NDP MLA for Lethbridge West. Ms. Phillips, why do you think it's important for this report to be made public as soon as possible?
Well, Jason Kenney's government has talked already about cuts in healthcare and education. They've certainly we've seen some of the results of that. We've already seen some organizations and agencies and schools and so on having to take decisions based on what they've heard from the Kenney government, but there is no certainty. The government is once again refusing to provide that certainty to people in healthcare, education, seniors care, and child care on the grounds that the answers are contained within a report that is now secret. Now, Albertans deserve to see that so that they can know what's going to be in the budget in the fall.
Well, Premier Kenney and Finance Minister Travis Taves have said this report will influence the UCP's first budget. What are you expecting to see in this report?
Well, the first people that need to be able to influence a government's budget is the people of Alberta themselves. And what we've seen from Jason Kenney is that he's not interested in consultation. So once again, he's putting in his earplugs. And the folks that he is listening to, we don't get to see what that advice is. So we can only assume that if they're refusing to release it, it's got things in it that are going to be deeply unpopular. Severe cuts to healthcare, education, and other services, stopping infrastructure projects in various communities across the province, and other measures that certainly he did not run on, and that are not broadly supported by Albertans.
Well, during the election, the UCP promised to balance the budget by 2022-23 without raising taxes. Do you think this report will provide the roadmap to get there, or could we see the date for that balanced budget actually pushed back?
Well, it's going to be tremendously difficult to keep the promises, given that Jason Kenney's first action in government was to blow a $4.5 billion hole in the budget by giving away that money to the wealthiest corporations among us. These are large, already profitable corporations that got a massive gift from Jason Kenney as his first act in office. Now, it is very, very difficult under those circumstances to not make cuts to healthcare and education. And what we know is that likely what is going to happen is that ordinary people are going to pay for that tax cut in reduced services. And it is likely that there will be job losses in education and healthcare and other services as well. But we can only assume that's going to be the case because the government is now withholding the report from Albertans. So we have concluded that it is something of a secret cuts report.
Well, when the panel was introduced back in May, the chair, Janice McKinnon, had said Alberta can make difficult choices while still protecting frontline services, and that restructuring programs can be a way to actually reduce spending. Do you think that's realistic?
I don't think it's realistic in the context of a multi-billion-dollar giveaway to the wealthiest among us. In that context, it will be ordinary people who end up having to pay the freight for that. What the province has also done is canceled a number of different job-creating diversification initiatives on top of this. So on top of blowing a hole in your budget, you're also taking away all of those programs that essentially stabilize the economy and diversify our way off of the one product, one commodity to one market in the absence of new pipelines, and that's makes life tremendously difficult for a lot of Albertans, and that's why we haven't seen the job growth that was promised by Mr. Kenney, and that's why this budget is going to be tremendously hard for many, many families.
Well, I understand your party is going to be hosting a series of pre-budget town halls around the province. That's beginning in September 10th, I understand. Why is this important?
Because it's important to hear from Albertans. Before the election, Jason Kenney said that he wasn't going to consult on anything. He was just going to move really, really quickly. And now we're seeing that he is not interested in actually thoughtfully engaging with Albertans. He is going to keep the advice that he has received from all of these so-called experts secret, so Albertans can't thoughtfully engage with what might be going into this budget. And he's not going to go out and talk to them about what they want to see as the future of their health care, education, seniors care, child care, and other services. And so in the context of that, many organizations are already looking at cuts. And we want to hear from them. We want to hear those real stories of ordinary Albertans who are affected by budget decisions. That should be the role of the Premier, his Finance Minister, and the rest of his cabinet. If it isn't, the official opposition is pleased to roll up our sleeves and get the job done for them.
Well, based on what you're hearing so far, what are Albertans' biggest concerns? I guess, what do you expect to come from these consultations?
Well, I think people are enormously worried about, for example, education. We've already seen through a series of stumbles and uncertainty provided by the Jason Kenney's education minister that classes are already going to be bigger this fall. We are already looking at situations where families may not have for example, access to an educational assistant for their child with a disability in the classroom. We're already seeing those effects of a government that at once is not communicating, but has not at all been forthright with boards on what their expectation is. We're already seeing boards plan for a cut of the nutrition grant, for example, which fed somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 kids every day a nutritious meal when they went to school. Those things are already being cut. So we're going to be hearing about the real world consequences for ordinary families of those cuts already, and what is to come potentially is more cuts, and we want to hear about how those are going to affect ordinary people as well.
And all these consultations, do you anticipate they will help to inform your party's shadow budget?
Yeah, of course we're going to prepare a shadow budget. The official opposition, when Jason Kenney's crowd held down that job, they didn't bother. They couldn't be bothered to do their jobs and produce a shadow budget, give people a sense of the alternatives. We are not similarly affected by such indolence, and so we are going to, once again, just roll up our sleeves and do a shadow budget, put an alternate set of proposals in front of Albertans, and just say, look, this is the job of the official opposition, is to say that things don't have to be this way. They could be a different way. Here's what we've seen from Albertans, and this is just part of our job after people elect us.
Well, we all look forward to learning more in the fall. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective today.
Thank you for this opportunity.
That is Shannon Phillips, MLA for Lethbridge West and finance critic for the opposition NDP. It's time